Hello and welcome to drillingcontractor.org. I'm Kelly Ainsworth here at the 2015 IADC Asset Reliability and Integrity Conference in Houston, Texas. I'm here with Chip Keener, president of Rig Stacking Solutions, to discuss the key issues surrounding stacking and then restarting rigs. How are you doing today, Chip?
Very good, Kelly. Thank you.
We've already seen some rigs be stacked, but what can we expect to see throughout this downturn with regard to continued stacking of rigs?
Kelly, I think you're going to see a lot more stacking. I think you're going to see the stacking get a lot more aggressive. I think to this point, I think people have been a little bit in denial at the severity of the industry recession right now. I think as it starts to really take a bite, you'll see people cold stacking rigs where they've been warm stacking them in the past. I think you'll see more scrapping as well.
And Chip, how long does it take to stack a rig?
You know, it depends a lot on how prepared you are to stack a rig. And what I would encourage contractors to do is don't wait till they stack a rig to start thinking about it. It should be considered well in advance so that they know exactly how to apply the volatile corrosion inhibitors, so that they have a strategy for dehumidification and the power generation in support of the dehumidification, that they've got a strategy if they're going to put remote monitoring on it, and they have partners identified with all of those, and they've covered all those bases, because they can spend months preparing that. Stack costs, warm stack costs on these deep water floaters are running, for instance, $40,000 to $50,000 a day, and that's just dead time if they wait to plan. If they get the planning done in advance, I would imagine probably 4 to 6 weeks is the time necessary to stack a rig.
And when it's time to bring them back, how long does that take?
You know, if there's not a big certification burden, if that's manageable, and they've stacked everything properly, and they've get a nucleus of the same people back, and all the startup plans have been prepared for them. Startup requisitions can be prepared in advance and such. If all of those things are done, I would not expect more than about 2 weeks. If they haven't stacked it properly, there's no end to how long it can take. There'll be steel replacement and et cetera. So the key is to stack it properly, to take all the preparation you need just to minimize the startup time.
What are some of the key considerations that contractors should keep in mind when it comes to equipment preservation and location when stacking their rigs?
Two different questions there. Preservation, the two best methods to do that is one is dehumidification and the other is volatile corrosion inhibitors. Volatile corrosion inhibitors are a vapor phase emitter type. They used in its base form. It's a powder, waxes, oils. It's miscible with lubricants and such as this, and it's good for about 2 years after application. So I think what they need to do is a good regime of volatile corrosion inhibitors. And keep a good record, because on a 2-year cycle you're probably going to have to get in and do it again. But that will preserve particularly junction boxes, electric equipment, et cetera, perfectly. Dehumidifiers are a little more challenging because you need a power source to do that. So if you're going to cold stack, you're going to have to put a containerized generator of maybe 100 horsepower or something like that to keep the humidity levels down. And you can draw down preload tanks, machinery spaces, sack rooms, accommodation, and keep the humidity levels in kind of the 40 to 45% range, which is low enough to prevent corrosion but high enough not to impair the elastomers.
And what can contractors do when preparing to stack a rig that can make it easier to eventually start it up again?
Well, first of all, the stack program must consider the startup. That has to be a principal focus. So on the equipment side, I would say keep a record of all the deferred maintenance, the maintenance strategy, keep a documentation of all the preservation that's been done, and prepare a cookbook for unstacking. There's not going to be that much unstacking involved. You don't have to remove the volatile corrosion inhibitors. Taking the dehumidification equipment out is a small task. But, to the extent that they're, blanking tanks and pipes and such as that, those will have to be removed. So that all needs to be documented, and they need to prepare a cookbook. The other thing is they need to capture the certificate status on everything, so to try and minimize the renewal obligation when they start it back up again. And people is a huge factor. So one of the things they can do to help themselves a lot is, before they let the people go, get evaluations on them, get all their contact details, emails, phone numbers, and such as this, and strongly encourage that the management team that remains do their best to maintain contact with the people, just to engage a sense of loyalty. If you can get even a proportion of particularly the supervisors back, it makes the startup far easier.
Thank you for joining us today, Chip, with that very timely information.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Kelly.
And thank you for joining us on drillingcontractor.org.